All right, thing is on, Andrew Krammer. 1500ESPN.com is the website. Thanks for coming to it. Judd Zulgad, Andrew Krammer, Mankato, a classroom, right, is where we're at right now?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's our workroom for the next week plus as the training camp continues down here. Vikings practice today. Let's get right to it. We had some run drills. They got feisty. We don't see guys tackle to the ground for the most part now, if really never. Yeah. And we don't see a lot of potential fights. Today, we at least saw things get interesting, which was funny because it wasn't hot. It was gorgeous outside. But yet, it did get a little bit feisty.
Yeah, it did for the first time. Actually, there was one maybe a little skirmish a week ago, but these practices have been actually pretty tame. When you're talking about NFL training camps, was it just yesterday? The Dallas Cowboys are posting a fight between Des Bryant on their own Twitter account. Did you see that in practice?
Yeah, and they were bragging about it.
Yeah, and these are the kind of things that happen at every single training camp. Well, the Vikings finally had some of that come to their training camp today, where we saw I think Stephon Diggs get into a shoving match with Sean Prater. Saw Leon Mackey, one of the defensive ends they signed this offseason, get into a shoving match with Michael Pruitt, the rookie tight end. So just across all levels of the offense and defense, there are guys getting into it. And I think that's good if you want to see that from the Vikings here, especially when they're kind of held back to a point where they can't tackle like you're talking about. And now they finally get to transition that into another team this weekend when they travel to Canton to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Hall of Fame game. I talked to a few guys today who said we're actually kind of sick of going up against each other all the time. They're looking forward to hitting somebody else, and you saw that spill over a little bit, I think, in practice today.
Key thing, though, is, and this will probably hold true until the Vikings play their third preseason game at least, no game planning, right? So the whole plan against Pittsburgh is go play fast, don't worry about what the Steelers do whatsoever.
Absolutely, do your own thing. I talked to Chad Greenway today, and somebody asked him, do you treat this at all like a game week? And his quote was, absolutely, 100% no. There's just nothing that you would do to try and game plan. Nobody cares about the outcome of the game. You're trying to evaluate your own guys, what you have on your own team. They don't care at all about winning a game or beating the Steelers or what they're trying to do, and the Steelers probably are doing the exact same thing. But you had asked me an interesting question, too, earlier about how they'll treat these 5 preseason games now that they have an extra one. Really what's going to happen is this first one is really just the extra one. That 4th preseason game they're going to have, they'll treat like the 3rd one because it'll be every other team's 3rd preseason game as well, where they'll be able to go starter against starter. That's where I expect to see Teddy Bridgewater, some of the main guys, not Adrian Peterson, but some of the main guys play about a half or something like that. That'll be the 4th preseason game for the Vikings. This first one is really just, they'll have 2 first ones essentially with this one this weekend and then the following weekend.
What player, so with this game, if this game is important to anybody on this roster, would it be the rookie free agents? Would it be the 7th round picks, those guys? Is there anybody who, when we watch the game on Sunday, you can identify and say, this could mean something to that player?
Yeah, I don't think it's just some of the bottom fringe guys on the roster. I think it's more the guys fighting for starting spots and who's going to get that leg up then, because then those practice reps will be adjusted based on how they played in Canton against the Steelers. So we're talking about guys like Antone Exum, who's maybe competing for that starting spot with Robert Blanton.
My guy from Mr. Mankato.
Maybe a Daniil Hunter or a Scott Crichton, who actually suffered a left ankle sprain in practice on Sunday and was held out today. Those kind of guys who are fighting for reps in the regular season, because this first preseason game will set the tone for how those reps go in practice the following week and into the next preseason game. But obviously if somebody shines, like an Adam Thielen last year we saw kind of pop up in all these preseason games, that obviously helps the cause if you're an undrafted guy.
Free of our buddy Ben Gessling of ESPN.com. He's nowhere to be found around here. Give me an actual update without being influenced unduly on Mr. Mankato at this part. Antone Exum is my guy. I saw him make a nice play today.
Yeah.
I saw him get chewed out at one point for not being lined up in the right spot. Who is, give me the top 3 right now for our Mr. Mankato at 1500 ESPN.
Well, Ben would be happy with this. I still say Stephon Diggs, who was the odds-on favorite going into this. He's had a great camp so far, shined really in that Saturday night scrimmage where he was catching everything that was thrown his way. He's the kind of guy that you look at and go, he's a refined route runner. He doesn't need a lot of work like that. They've had enough of those guys, like you're talking about Cordero Patterson, guys who they really do need to work on in terms of that game. Stephon comes in already polished that way. His kind of issue in college was he just wasn't durable enough. He's a guy that I think has done enough to put him still as the front runner, Mr. Mankato. Although a guy who kind of came out, I don't think he was a long shot by any means, but Daniil Hunter, the 3rd round rookie defensive end, he's a guy who's actually shown some pass rushing moves. I talked with him a little bit. I think think it was last week, where he was talking about how he worked on those kind of moves in the off month here to try and refine that. He's a guy that he looks the part, absolutely, but he needs a lot of work technique-wise.
He's really raw, right?
He is, yes. He's really raw, but the Vikings said, Mike Zimmer said it, I think it was a couple days ago, that he's a lot less raw than we thought, and I think the credit goes to Daniil for working on that stuff on his own and taking to the coaching.
Sure.
He's a guy I think that could shine too, especially with Crichton being hurt now. He might get more looks this weekend in
Can't make
Canton.
the club in a tub.
Exactly. And the third guy would be my own pick, and this isn't unbiased. Isn't biased, excuse me. Michael Pruitt, the tight end that they got in the 5th round. He's a guy that Norv Turner absolutely raves about. They love what he can do. They love his versatility too. He was only, I think it was a D2 school in Southern Illinois that he came out of. Wasn't a really heralded guy at all, but they like his versatility as a guy who can play that Rhett Ellison role, but also maybe provide more in the passing game that Rhett hasn't been able to do.
You got special teams love too from Prefer.
Yeah, from
today,
Prefer.
Right? Did
Yep.
Mike Prefer mention that
Yes.
Pruitt's playing really well?
Absolutely, and so that's key too with these young guys who are trying to make the roster. Pruitt's not going to jump over Kyle Rudolph to be that tight end starter, so he'll have to earn his stripes on that special teams.
Last thing, late news today after practice, Mike Zimmer has left the team for at least one day. Is that correct?
Yes, Mike Zimmer left. He left immediately. He had a scheduled thing with the beat writers afterward, but he had to kind of bounce out of that because he had to leave immediately to go be with his father, Bill, in Florida, who is ailing, has health issues. I think his father's 84 years old. Mike had talked about how he won't be able to be at practice on Tuesday. The Vikings have an off day on Wednesday, so maybe he'll be back by that Thursday. Mike said Norv Turner will run the practices on tomorrow on Tuesday.
Thank you very much, sir. Andrew Krammer, check out his work. He's doing a great job for us, 1500ESPN.com. I'm Judd Zulgad. Listen to me and Phil Mackey and Judd, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every weekday. And in fact, this week we are coming to you from Bradley's in Mankato the entire week. I'm sure we'll be back in this classroom talking again, Andrew, tomorrow at some point, giving updates. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. Now I'm going to turn this off, and I'm not going to change this, so you're going to see my finger come real close. Here it is. Bye.